It's Wednesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Muriel Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Mariam in the building. Is it what, 2 weeks?
Is it? It's 1 week and
a half, yeah. It don't look like 2 weeks to us.
Yeah, I know. But I'm good. I'm happy to be back and I'm good. Yes. So recently, life really threw me a curveball. But God showed up and showed up mightily. And, you know, I just want to also thank God for friends, for family who were there through the process, supporting. You know, sometimes you have to go through some rough times. But like God was like, okay, I know my daughter, I have to go through this, but I'm going to cushion it for you. And he sent amazing people our way. So thank you very much. I have lots, just gratitude to everyone. Yeah, but it's I'm happy to be back.
Oh, I'm happy to have you back.
Yeah.
I love your top.
I love your dress. You know, that's...
First time I'm seeing this top, Abby. Right? Yes.
Maybe
yes.
you seeing it. It's possible. Yeah, you're right. Yes.
It becomes your number 2.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Okay, so I changed my brand of green tea. There's a brand I usually take, and that one is very good. So I now changed it. I drank it yesterday night, and this was how I was throughout the night. I turned to watch God throughout the night. I didn't sleep.
Are you for real? There's so much caffeine.
In fact, that was when I even knew that, you know, in my estate, there's a time that they put on the gen, and they put off the gen. The time they put on the gen, they usually put on the gen around 7. It now took time for them to put it on.
So you were aware.
But when it was time to put it off, 4 on the dot, bam, they put it off. I was like, you know, you should at least allow at least 10 minutes or 15 minutes over before you
gen
put it
monitor.
In fact, yes.
Talking about Jenny, honestly, I was not happy because in my estate, they turned, because of the blackout now.
Yes.
They turned on the generator all night. And I kept telling them, leave the generator off. Like, I mean, we can have it during the day, but at night it's a bit cooler. And later in the morning when the kids are going to school, we have. Yeah, the diesel now finished at 5 a.m.
Oh, no.
And in my house, there's no generator, there was no backup, no torchlight.
Although it's a bit hot.
It's quite hot, actually, this day. So I was,
sleeping at night.
This morning was just crazy. Thank God we had water to use. Hello, Dr. Obiajulu Ubo. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. At the same time, not so excited. The AfriLab fashion show is holding in South Africa today. And at Dahaba, my second fashion line is launching there. Not happy that I didn't get a visa to be there, but I have representatives there, you know, at the launch. I'm just going to be hoping that they take good pictures
and send us videos.
They show me the models, you know, catwalking on stage with my outfits and sell markets. Don't bring anything back.
Actually, have a screen there where you're there at some point.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't planned.
It wasn't planned like that.
It'd be nice for you to just be seeing your course or do a video of yourself.
Yeah.
And they can put a screen and that's playing.
Yeah, but they did not plan that some
that they won't give you the
fashion designers will not be able to make it. Yes, they didn't plan that some of us will not give this. I don't know what I do South Africa, but however, I'm excited. We are launching, and the website is up. Very soon, people can go to the website and purchase our products. Ethical fashion, sustainable fashion. Let's save the planet together.
Nice. I love it.
Lovely.
So I'm going to Abuja today. I have a meeting, and I'll be back tomorrow. But just very quickly. No, nothing big, but I'm just excited about everything. You know, just looking forward. This weekend I have a is it a wedding or a funeral? I think it's a funeral. So I'm going traveling. Yes, it's a funeral. I'm going to the Allens. They're having their father pass.
You sure it's a funeral, so you don't dress for a wedding, please?
It's something I can do, but I believe it's a funeral. Yeah. Because I get so many Ankaras. You get to that where you get like so many Ashwebis.
Yes.
You know, start calling. Sorry, which one is your Ashwebi? And I took pictures of Ashwebi. Please, which one is your one? I don't even remember.
I've never gotten there. I will never get there.
Always having Ashwebis back to back. I have to call the owner and say, please, I can't remember what's your call. Our one is green. Are you
Your
sure?
circle is large. I don't have that kind of circle.
It's just crazy. I'm so excited. Congratulations to the celebration of life. The father, so my friend Dodger Allen, her husband's father, passed on. So all road leads to Ibadan this weekend. By God's grace, we'll be there to celebrate the family and just be there to celebrate. Let's go on a short break now. When we return, we'll look at the front pages of the papers. All eyes on Trump and Kamala. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to start with the Punch. Nationwide blackout as grid suffers 10th collapse in 2024. Picture story here. Over 300 billion naira lost in protest, Shetima tells released hungry miners. Lagos driver flees after setting LASMA official on fire. Sex tapes. Equatorial Guinea installs CCTV in offices, suspends officials. Stakeholders hail reversal of 18 years policy for varsity admissions. The regulation not licensed to blend low-quality products, says Dangote. And eyes on swing states as Harris-Trump battle for U.S. presidency. Okay, which story are we starting with?
Major headline. So Nigerians were on Tuesday plunged into darkness following another collapse of the national power grid. So the Punch reports that since January 2024 till date, the grid had collapsed 10 times. Within 1 week in October, the grid collapsed 3 times with its attendant blackouts, sparking reactions from Nigerians. So according to the correspondent, it confirmed yesterday that the grid lost power generation around 1:50 p.m. And as of 1 p.m., power generation was 2,711 megawatts. At 12 p.m., it was 3,631 megawatts. Then earlier power generation also peaked at 3,904.77 megawatts around 6 o'clock in the morning. But between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m., hourly generation dropped to 0.00 megawatts. The 22 power generator plants on the grid lost power at the time of the incident. So the Transmission Company of Nigeria confirmed the development, saying that the national grid experienced a partial disturbance at about 1:52 p.m. on 5th November 2024. And TSN spokesperson, that's Ndidimba, said this followed a series of lines and generators tripping that caused instability of the grid and consequently the partial disturbance of the system. So they said data from the National Control revealed that part of the grid was not affected by the bulk power disruption. The engineers are already working to quickly restore bulk power supply to the states that were affected by the partial disturbance. And presently, the supply has been restored to Abuja at 2:49 p.m. And they are gradually restoring to other parts of the country. So the several discos have been sending out messages, apologizing for what has happened and seeing how they can work to restore power across states.
Okay, so Dangote Petroleum Refinery has informed Pinnacle Oil and Gas Limited and other oil marketers that the deregulation of the downstream oil sector should not be used as a justification for importation of off-spec petroleum products or the undermining of national interest, that's Nigeria's national interest. So on Sunday, Dangote Refinery tackled the firm for setting up a blending plant around its facility in Lagos with the intention of selling substandard petroleum products to Nigeria. They said the CEO of the company, Dikaman, refuted this claim by Dangote Refinery. I find this quite interesting, you know. So Dangote says that, the company says, I have long been an advocate for deregulation and industrialization in Nigeria, but our support is rooted in commitment to the sustainable growth of the country's economy and the protection of its people from any exploitation. So I hope this, message goes out. It's such an important message. I remember, talking about this refinery coming up. We now started hearing about substandard petroleum products that were detrimental to our health and also affects our cars, adversely. So please, I hope the federal government takes this seriously.
We've been going back and forth on this whole week, on this substandard thing. Yeah. But for those of us who have been monitoring the American elections, so far it's been crazy and really close, as we said, contestiously close. But as of 7 minutes ago from this Al Jazeera website, it's saying that Trump has 51.18% votes, while Kamala has 47.36%. She has 224 electoral votes, and you need 270 to win. So I don't know if it's been declared yet, but we are hoping, they're saying it looks like Trump has it. It's still 270, 267, and he only needs 3 more to be declared the president. And eventually, she might have to concede. But, when Nigeria, across the world, people were rooting for Kamala, but she really fought a good fight.
Yes.
Like, she really came for it. And
Someone says that if it's Trump, at least it's just 4 years. He can't come back again. Just the 4 years.
Okay, so I have the story of the LASMA officer who was put ablaze. They said a commercial driver is on the run after causing bodily injuries to an officer of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, that's LASMA, in the Mile 2 area of the state. They said they violated the traffic light, and then the LASMA, about 5 of them, hopped into the bus. And when they hopped into the bus, the driver and the conductor set the bus ablaze and ran away. And then one of the LASMA officer he sustained severe burns and was immediately transported to a nearby hospital for urgent medical treatment. Really? But now the agency are coming out and they said they strongly urge all commercial and other drivers to comply fully with traffic regulations and respect the authority of LASMA personnel LASMA will not condone any form of violence or intimidation and will take firm and decisive action against those responsible. This was what happened.
I saw that video on social media. It's
Yeah,
really
it
terrible. Daily Sun. Varsity admission, FG makes a U-turn. APC hits back as Atiku calls him election serial loser. Discos must bear replacement costs for prepaid meters, says FCCPC. Hope Mr. Otumba is hearing that. Nigeria will be better with more people like says Jonathan, excuse me. Put food on the tables of Nigerians, Kuka tells government. Niger boils as bandits, vigilantes engage in gun battle. And Dangote refinery pinnacle oil trade accusations over alleged substandard petrol.
Do we have
Okay,
time for one
yes,
more
please.
story? Yes. So members of the local vigilantes of Madaka community in Rafi local government area of Niger State on Monday laid ambush for bandits and killed no fewer than 16 persons, while several others escaped with bullet injuries. 3 members of the local vigilantes, however, lost their lives during the gun battle, which a source close to the community had described as very fierce, and he said it lasted for over 3 hours. Now, about 20 kidnapped victims, mostly travelers who were abducted by the bandits, were being moved to their camps around Beringwari in Kaduna State. They said they were able to escape to freedom when the vigilantes engaged them in gun battle. So according to a reliable source from Madaka community, the vigilantes got wind of the movement of the bandits and decided to lay ambush for them, which led to heavy casualties on the side of the bandits. They said they got information about their movement and decided to lay that ambush. They were moving with some victims they had already abducted from the road earlier in the day. They said some were in the front leading the victims, while a majority of them were following from behind. So they concentrated on the back, but those in front were able to kill 3 of their men. That's 3 of the vigilantes. He said, we asked the kidnapped victims to lie down so that the stray bullets will not hit them. It was after the battle that we now handed over the kidnapped victims to the security agents. He said the victims themselves were made up of people who were on their way to southern parts of the country for businesses, and they were abducted by the bandits between Tegina and Zunguru in the same Rafi local government. They also said in another development, about 35 people, all members of Pandori community in the same Rafi local government, have been abducted by another group of bandits at Katakwa village along Tegina-Zungeri road. They were traveling, for business as well to, I think, to Mina. And they said one of the drivers who refused to be taken away told them that if you take me, nobody will pay ransom and everything. They just killed him and dumped him on the road and continued on their journey. So,
Okay, let's go on a short break. When we come back, we continue with our reviews. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm taking a story on Daily Sun. So borrowing a leaf from his boss, Mr. President, who during his inaugural speech said, subsidy gone. The new Minister for Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, has totally reversed the 18-year admission benchmark for tertiary institutions to 16 years. He said that decision the initial decision was the way the national policy education was designed. He said we will not be going forward with the 18-year admission benchmark. We will go with the 16 years, and we are going to meet with the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, that's JAM. There will also be exceptions for gifted children. So 18 years is not part of our policy again. Bang. He said it on his first inauguration, like, she copy your resident.
My daughter is very happy. She'll be very happy with this.
Okay.
I have the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, has said that based on all relevant regulations, including the one from the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, and the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, DISCOs should bear the cost of replacing consumers' prepaid meters and not the other way around.
And calmer, so that they can hear you.
Okay, DISCOs should bear the cost of replacing consumers' prepaid meters and not the other way around. FCCPC says that it would take unfriendly actions against discos or other stakeholders along the electricity management value chain that announce policies or decisions that could defraud consumers. We had Mr. Tunji Bello, who is the vice chairperson of FCCPC. So he gave this warning in Abuja, and he made specific reference to a recent decision by Ikeja Electricity Distribution Company to phase out the Unistar prepaid meter model, which will start 14th of 2024. And, you know, he says that, see, this decision poses another challenge for consumers. First of all, you have announced this, but you haven't also given, like, what next steps are. You haven't explained how this transition will be carried out, who will be paying for it. But he's saying, even no matter what, I hope you realize you have to pay for this. And then during the transition, I hope you're now not going to be billing people arbitrarily because they don't have a meter and they're waiting for it. So he's saying, see, whatever you do, remember that we have a, you know, they have the FCCPC Act, and it says that everything
Can sanction them.
that whatever it is that is done, policies or whatever it is that's put out, has to be fair also to the consumers, and they'll be watching.
Okay, so hopefully Otumba, Sunday, or Duton has heard that, because we'll bring you back to this show. Come and tell us if you want to start fighting FCCPC. You have a story in Sun? Or
I had this
okay.
story.
Vanguard. Hashtag end bad governance. Why we release minor says federal government. Protesters storm National Assembly over hardship. Why telecoms infrastructure must be protected, says NCC and NGI. Tinubu decorates acting Chief of Army Staff Oluyede with new rank. Undo Guba. Ajayi Flo Ayedatiwa in debate. Again, National Grid collapsed 4 times in 24 days. And why forfeited illicit arms pose security threat, says NSA. Okay.
So I had a story earlier. The government in Equatorial Guinea has commenced a probe into hundreds of leaked pornographic videos allegedly involving high-ranking civil servants. Baltasar Egonga, we took that story yesterday, said he was caught having sex with various women, including wives of prominent officials in his office. So the government has further ordered the installation of surveillance cameras in courts and ministries to combat indecent, illicit acts. He also announced that he was suspending officials involved in the scandal. And according to a statement issued by the Equatorial Guinea Press Information Office, published on the government's website on Tuesday, Vice President Teodoro Mange on Tuesday said any official found engaging in sex acts at work would be sanctioned, as this was a flagrant violation of the code of conduct. So the government said the recent decision was taken because of the circulated videos and the fact that it denigrated the image of the country.
Does that even make any sense? CCTVs.
No, but it sort of helps. I'm wondering why they did not have
reactionary now.
CCTVs. It is not what we do as a government. We react now.
Yeah, so I have the story of the protesters who stormed the National Assembly over hardship. They said a large crowd of activists flooded Abuja's 3-arm zone yesterday, demanding sweeping reforms in the oil sector. They said it was organized by the APC Solidarity and Development Forum, comprising youth and civil society organizations. The protesters expressed frustration over high fuel prices, President fuel scarcity, and intensifying economic hardship affecting Nigerians. They also argued that despite repeated assurances from authorities, shortages and high prices continue to persist, impacting citizens and eroding public trust in the government's disposition. And they are now saying that that hope agenda, that new renewed hope agenda, also underscores the need for a leadership change focused on accountability. So they are still saying that people are suffering and that you should do something about it, most especially in the oil sector.
Another story? Vanguard?
Vanguard, yes. So the federal government has inaugurated a 10-member interministerial committee led by the Secretary to the Government, Senator George Akume. And this is to enforce the Supreme Court's recent ruling on local government autonomy. So the committee would oversee the financial independence of the councils and ensure that they operate without state interference. Members of the committee are Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, and a few more others. So really their job is to make sure that the local governments are, fully autonomous and that they also function effectively without state government interference. Like they had to create a whole committee to make sure that the bully state government does not get involved.
Okay, that's final paper, the Nigerian Tribune. Let's see if there's a story we've not taken. FG moves to curtail negative net assets of 39 trillion. Fear of post-election unrest in the United States as tensions rise. LASMA officer set ablaze in Lagos. Oyebanji appoints Justice Ogumoye as acting chief judge. I'm satisfied with my achievements in 8 years of Obaseki. And Tinubu promotes acting chief of army staff Oluyede to lieutenant general.
Let me take this. So how the tables have turned. I can't believe that this is a headline about America, but they're saying that there's fear of post-election unrest in the United States.
Yes.
Not in
the
Nigeria.
US of A.
Not in any African country. The United States. Okay. So they say there are growing fears about potential unrest in the days following the declaration of the results of the election. Rising tensions, accusation of electoral fraud, increasing polarization leading on to the election day. You know, so the sort of stories that we're used to here is happening over there. So they are worried that this may cause tension when the results are finally, you know, reported. But what I will advise you people, you know, I feel that we should send some delegates from Nigeria to the United States to advise you on how we handle ourselves in situations like this. You need to remember that the people come first, you know, and that politicians must carry themselves with decorum. Thank you very much.
All right, let me move on to the story about the governor of Edo State, Governor Godwin Obaseki. He has said he's leaving office as a governor that is very satisfied having undertaken bold reforms and projects that have transformed critical areas of the state, including education, healthcare, economy, infrastructure, and job creation, amongst many others. These, he said, while he has improved the livelihoods of the people and placed the state on the path of growth and economic prosperity. The governor said this on Tuesday when he led Enugu State Department, Dr. Peter Mba, and the former governor of Sokoto State, Senator Alhaji Aminu Tambuwal. They were all there, and where he just expressed his gratitude for their support and saying that he's hoping that he has restored the hope of the people in the state to rebuild Edo's economy and empower and equip people to be better, to build the state for a better future. So I'm really hoping that as a transition to a new party, new governance, that things are sustained as he had put them in place. Have a story?
No.
Okay, I think somebody ticked The Guardian. Let me see. I have 1 more minute. The Guardian, public engagements debates fading as vote buying rules holds. Which vote buying? Which country is this? Okay. FBI warns of disinformation as Trump gives condition to concede poll. CJN laments rising vulnerability of Nigerian firms to cyber attacks. Who took that story? Somebody took that story. Okay, that's all we can take on Front Page Review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Today we're discussing parenting. We're discussing entitlement and children. Entitlement, especially with kids who are born in privileged homes. How entitled are they, and how can parents help to curb this character of entitlement? So recently, an American rapper, 50 Cent, spoke out, as he's always done for many years, about his biggest enemy, which is his son. He said, according to him, he said, my son has entitlement and mentality, thinking my money is his. It hurts to see him so irresponsible. I keep saying this publicly, hope he'll be ashamed and then can start working. No matter how rich you are, never let your kids feel your money belongs to them. So our discussion today is about entitlement and our children, especially those of us who are trying to have a bit of privilege for them. You know, we're giving them what we didn't have. We're trying to make lives better for them. We've had situations where children feel that they are rich. They feel like I'm a rich kid, you know? And sometimes it's important for parents to remind them who owns the money. But let's have a conversation, because I remember recently, Ramatu was talking about how our kids were out of the house and you had the big fish to yourself. You know, you ate some, you left it, you came back, it was still exactly where you left it, you know. And kids, if the kids were around, they'll feel like all of us own this fish, all of us, no, you bought it for us. And they have no respect. They will take the biggest portions because, hey, it's our fish now. Fish. But they were not around, and it was yours. So that example reminded me that, listen, maybe we need to start having this conversation of entitlement. How far should our children feel entitled to our own wealth or properties? Let's have a conversation. You can call us on 081 0764 1679 090 241 63440. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read the tweets. Excuse me. Who would like to go first? BC? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think entitlement is a learned behavior most of the time, and is also enabled. So everybody from time to time will be selfish. Everybody from time to time will push their boundaries. But how you respond to them pushing the boundaries is what will either enable entitlement or what will put a stop to it. So in raising children, it's very important that we make it known that it's not just money that I'm bringing to the table as your parent. I also want to, take a look at this 50 Cent situation, or also knowing that he didn't really stay with the boy in the first place. Probably all he has ever seen was him sending money for upkeep and all of that. And so he saw him in that light of, once we look for ATM, is daddy we are dragging, right? But if he had probably been in the life of the boy, changed his diaper, taking him to school in nursery school, played games with him and all of that, he would see him for more than his money, right? So this could be a part of it. But generally speaking, because this entitlement is all over the world, it's in our homes, it's in our offices, it's everywhere, where people just feel entitled to what you own, is because over the years we have enabled them to feel that way. So you're in your home, your child wants this, you dish it, he wants that, you dish it. The day you say no, he starts throwing terrible tantrums, and because you cannot process that tantrum, so you just give him to make him happy. You are enabling that entitlement. We've had siblings also who are entitled to their siblings' money. They feel that, but you are making it now. It's you that God has blessed. So God has blessed you so that you can bless us. And then they keep making demands, and every time you try to help them start up a business, it fails. Put them in a work, they mess up, because they believe that after all, you are there. There's a sister there or there's a brother there that will always bail me out. And that's because we've been enabling it. So it's a learned behavior, and we can correct it. And we start that correction very, very early. I always tell my son, I say, this house where you did not be your own. You go build your own, because this one is my husband's house. All they say is, in case you are hearing outside his father's house, there's nothing like that. I will show you shege. You will. In fact, I used to tell him that you are on rent in this house. Very soon I'll start collecting my rent. Mommy, I say, yes. Very soon I'll start collecting money. You will start contributing, you'll be working and be paying for stuff in the house so that you know it's not your house. You quickly go and get your own house. When he takes things without permission, there was a punishment that I used to stop that behavior, because I realized that he would just walk into the kitchen and he would take something and he would not ask. Yeah. And when I now need that thing, they say, he has taken it. I said, okay, anything he takes that I did not ask for, he will pay for. By the time he paid close to 20,000, that habit has stopped naturally, because I do not want to raise a child who is entitled to what I am working for. If I choose to give you, I give you. When it's time to give you, I will give you. But for you to now feel I'm working for you,
right.
It's not going to work.
Let me go on a very short break. When we come back, we'll get some other comments from the ladies. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm told that TVC News will be joining the Marquis Transcorp Hilton for a live production going on right now. For those of you who are watching us on StarTimes and GoTV can continue, or those of us watching online can continue watching the show. So we're talking about entitlement and children, and I mean, BC established the position of how we can actually stop it and curb it from childhood. Yeah. What are your thoughts on what 50 Cent said, and how do you think we can actually expand it to our own society?
So, you know, the story of 50 Cent and his son has been ongoing for a while, and as BC established, really, in this particular case, I really do feel that it has to do with the fact that he wasn't really in the boy's life. And I also agree that, you know, maybe all he saw really was a man who took care of the needs that needed to be taken care of. And so as he grew older and more needs, you know, he had to take care of them. That's how he saw him, simple. But, you know, in our everyday lives as well, we see in different ways where, as parents, we make some of these mistakes. And it's good to be aware of what these mistakes are. I'm guilty of some of these mistakes as well. I would never forget when my son started saxophone classes in school, and he was really excited about it in the beginning. But after a while, I noticed his interest waned, and I was worried. I was wondering what happened. Then he told me one day, he says, the teachers are always making fun of me. They say I don't use my fingers well. That one teacher even said, even a 6-year-old can do that. I was very upset. Like, how dare they? This is his first time, you know. I'm going to that school. I'm going to tell them. Father says, no, you're going nowhere. This is the real world. There are times that he'll go places where they don't like him, where he's not doing well. And how are you going to be there every moment, protecting him and saving the world? Let him deal with it. So he can choose two things. Either it hurts him so badly that he decides to do better and prove them wrong, or he gives up. So you need to teach him what he needs to do on his own, you know. And for me, I thought that was huge. You know, a lot of times we just feel that we're mothers, we need to protect our young. How dare put this limiting belief into him, you know. But sometimes it's okay for our children to go through some of these challenges so that they can learn to stand up for themselves and also know that the world does not just hand you things. You have to work for everything that you want. And I also understand why some of us do this sort of parenting, or some, you know, because of the way the world is. You know, you're constantly looking for how to protect your child, mentally protect them, you know. But we forget that children are resilient. After all, there are children who have very little parenting guidance, and somehow they thrive, you know, and somehow they do well without you constantly hovering up over them. So let's understand that children are resilient. Give them the tools to handle things, to handle challenges, and let them know it's part of life. In fact, some of the best gifts that you can get comes after you have worked hard for it than when it's handed over to you, and let them know that.
So let me come to you, Ramasa, because many of us, we know these things, but, you know, in practice is always difficult because you know where you've come from, you know the suffering you've had, you know the fact that you had to walk. I mean, my husband always says that he walks from, how they used to walk in Ife, from his house all the way to Moremi or wherever. He walked 12 kilometers and kilometers back and forth. And he was insisting that my kids walk. And I had no issues with that. It's just that, you know, sometimes I tell my kid to walk. She's like, okay, Mom, I don't want to walk today. And I just let the driver drop you. Even though our school is a walking distance. But we indulge them because we feel that, well, why would you stress yourself in walking when you can actually have a vehicle? So let me come to you, Rama, too. Then how can we realistically curb this thing?
Like what BC said earlier on, yeah, I agree that it comes from the parents as well. Because I remember on a lot of instances, one prayer I always pray is that, God, don't let me love my child so much that I will not be able to tell the child the truth. Or I'll not be able to tell the child no when the time comes. So there are times that my child will come to ask me for something, and I know I have to say no. And when I say no, it hurts me, it pains me. You know, there are times that I will actually go into the room and cry. Yes, because she'll be crying or they'll be crying, you know, and I'm like, I can give them this thing. I can afford it. Why can't I give it to them, you know, so that they won't be sad? But, you know, at some point I said I fought with that and I was able to come out of that. Talking about entitled kids, I know of a lot of people I know of some kids who were entitled when they were kids, and since they were not stopped, you know, they come from rich homes, and then their parents, you know, at some point they started wanting to kill their dad. We've seen stories like that, so that they can, get the dad's properties and all of that. They don't work hard. They don't. It doesn't help them work hard.
It gets there.
There's so many stories like that. When you get on Twitter, you see it. They you know, they are entitled because, you know, they feel that their dad's money is there to be able to sustain them.
But where do we draw the line between training a child and exposing a child. Because the truth is that, for example, I can afford first class. And my kids, there's no point, my child is just 5 years old. Why would I put her in economy when she can stay with me in first class? It doesn't make any sense. The first time on the flight, just because I want to train her, I would now rather buy economy class for her. But I would rather her just buy this first class and she's there. Now, she feels entitled. Now, she's now 10 years old. She's used to being on first class. And maybe because of financial economies, I'm like, you know, I can't afford. Now you're old enough to stay alone in economy.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not buying economy for you. And now start throwing tantrums, thinking that I can't stay there, you know, because you're so used to being in first class. So it's not as if I didn't want to. We just have circumstances have changed.
Yeah, so I saw something recently, and I've always wondered about it as well, which is we need to be sure, you need first of all to be aware and acknowledge your socioeconomic group. And, you know, this conversation happened that the truth is children born into financially,
Buoyant.
no, not where they're struggling financially. Because of that situation, because of that circumstance, they tend to be less entitled because life is already teaching them the tools. But if you happen to be a wealthy person, a wealthy parent, what you need to do is look for other ways for your child to learn these things. So if you don't have enough money, just giving birth to your child, life will already start, you know, arranging that child and understanding some of these things. But when you're born into a wealthy home, you have to now be more intentional, more deliberate about the lessons you want to teach that child so that they are not entitled. So yes, there's some things that come naturally with being from a billionaire family. We have a private jet. I'm not going to ask you to take a commercial flight because we have a private jet. We have a yacht, we travel the world. That is what we have, but there are other things. There's a business that we are running. That's how we make our money. In what ways have you introduced your children to the steps? Many of the ways I've heard is let your children start working in your business from the bottom. Yeah. They learn to call the janitor, the security man, the cleaner, yes sir, yes ma. They understand that to climb up the ladder, they need to do their bit. So it's not that wealth automatically makes it harder, or you should now punish your child or take away from them what it is that is naturally theirs, because it also has an effect when you do that, when it seems the child is wondering, you know, what is this? I'm just waiting for when you will move out of the way so that they can step into what is meant to be theirs. So it's just to teach them what this is the work that we do. These are the people that we respect. These are the people at the bottom that are making this wealth that we're enjoying happen. So you need to understand them, respect them, and also understand the job so that one day you can be that as well.
But let me come to you in the Nigerian context also, just taking what Mariam just said, but in the Nigerian context, because there's always that class system of you have to separate yourself. You have to show that you're, you know, because in Nigeria, we have that thinking of something must separate me from you. And there has to be something that shows that, how can you just be discussing with the security guard's children? No, don't be at that level. You have no business with them. Stay here. And the child is raised to feel as I am different from them. Yeah. And that mentality, take that mentality across board. Yeah. And it says that because we live in this banana island, this is what I need. And this is what we're superior to other people
who come from Agege and Ogba. So the thing is, we actually start some of these problems because of how we see ourselves as better than others, right? I remember there was a time a family friend came over to the house. I have these helps that come. They started from being my helps, and then we became like family friends. So from time to time, I would invite this particular lady over. We had children to come and spend time in my house. And she has access to everything, my kitchen and everything. And then this family friend comes over and sees her around. When you see her, you know the class where she is already. Nobody needs to tell you. And then sees how my kids were playing with the children. It was as if he was Candy's best friend that was around. They were hanging, cooking together in the kitchen. So she called me and was like, who is this person? Why am I allowing my kids to mingle with this? What are they doing in my house in the first place? Hey, I first of all sat down and I finished her. Not insulting, but I explained certain things to her. I said, so you want me to raise my kids to feel like they're superior to who? Is she not a human being? Are her kids not human beings? What's separating my kids from her kids? It's just God has decided to bless me more for whatever reason. I did not do anything special to have this sort of blessing. So why do I separate myself? I say, please, I don't have this kind of mentality in my home, right? So for me, personally, I'm a disciplinarian. People don't know till you come close to me. And there's some things I don't do for my children. Number one is they will not know how much I have in the first place. It's also a conversation that starts getting into their head when they understand where their parents are. It's not their business how much I earn. It's not their business how much I want them to see me that I'm working. I want them to see me that I'm hustling. I want them to see me that I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm doing this. And even if it seems like, okay, I'm working to make myself okay and make them okay. I want them to see that. But
Pause for a second.
them, okay, yeah,
I
have a call.
Yeah, hold it for you. I'll come back to you on that point. Kule from Lambert, thanks for calling you live.
Yes, good morning.
Please, good morning.
Yeah. I congratulate you on your hello.
Yes.
What I'm trying to put across is that all of us are guilty of this entitlement feelings we are giving to our children. You know, if you recall how we grew up, you know, we didn't have this kind of belief as a child. I remember I could respond.
Hello? Kule? Oh, yikes. I'm so sorry, Kule. Coming back to you, BC, you're talking about the example.
Yes, so I also remember that there was a time my son came home and said he wanted to change school. And I said, why? And he said the meat, the chicken they are giving to him is full.
I think you mentioned this before.
It's too small. I want to change school. That chicken is, mommy, just change me. I said, oh, wow. So if they give you small chicken, I should change you. Eat the small chicken like that. When you come home, you eat a big chicken. You are there to mingle and learn with people. I am not going to change. And sometimes he comes back and says, my teacher does not really, I want to change class. I have never called the teacher for those kind of films. I said, go there and sort it out. The only time I had a concern was when he was being bullied, which we handled. But what I'm saying is we need to be very, very deliberate, like Miriam had earlier said, especially if you are from the middle class to, you know, the
upper
rich
middle.
people where life is already becoming pleasant for you, where you can easily access something. To understand, like a conversation of flying business class. I personally don't believe in business class. I just flew business class once. And it was a different experience. I'm like, so yeah, okay, you have been cheating me since. Why haven't you flying business class? But I'm processing in my head, if we all have to travel, why do I have to take them to business class? They've not earned it. They're kids. My own is to move you from here to here. Maybe I'm paying for holiday already. That's what I can do for you right now. So they're getting to the age where they can actually sit at the back, and it's okay. And I sit in my business class because I've worked for that. And I've earned that. So we need to get our children to that point where they work and earn their keep. They work and earn their luxury. Before I give you anything, they know in my house, you work for it. Everybody's already asking, so which task are we doing again? I want this game. Which project are you giving us again to do for this game? And all of that. You have to work for it. So with that mindset, you're not hearing children conspire against themselves of taking out their father or taking out their mother because there's this money somewhere. I grew up in a family where he was entitled. In fact, first son did not want to lift a finger because father had property. And I saw that firsthand. I saw the insults from the other siblings. Go and build your own house. This is our father's money. I saw charms being laid all over the compound. You match, you have poison. I saw a lot growing up. And one of the things it made me do was to work for what I had. And I didn't even have anybody to rely on to hand me over, because the people that have collected the things were eating it themselves, they were not sharing. So I had to. And I'm very intentional about making sure that my kids are not somewhere thinking, mommy has this and mommy can do it. But how can I help? What can I contribute? What value can I bring so that I'm able to have this? So by the time we have the right conversations, we follow up, and by the grace of God, nobody has a template for raising children at the end of the day. It's still the grace of God.
I'm telling you, as Nima says, we get our report card. After your children become adults. That's where you get your report card. Let me take this call. I'll come to you, Ramatu. I think I have a call out. I'm going on a break. I'm not sure. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we wrap up on this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view will We'll be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing parenting today, and one of the topics under parenting is entitlement. We have that issue across board. Families are always seeing what they can do to reduce the entitlement mentality because it always shows up as adults. Ramatu was going to jump in the conversation.
Yeah, so one thing I do with my kids is I teach them gratitude. I always tell them to be grateful for what they have, and they should value what they have. For example, there was a time they were in school and, you know, I got them perfumes, just ordinary perfumes. We just went to a store and then they got perfumes. And then when they got to school, there was this friend of hers that got this designer perfume, you know, Coco Chanel and all. And she just got one funny name and all. She came, she called me, she said, Mommy, why didn't I buy the Coco Chanel and all of that? Because that one was telling her, no, that your perfume, it smells. She does not like the smell. We use cocoa, you know, we use this is what... One other girl had the likes of them, Rihanna, Beyonce. That other one now said, no, these ones are not the main designers. The main designer is 212, started naming them and all. And she went with her own design. And she came and she told me, and I was like, you don't need to have that kind of perfumes, as long as it smells nice. First of all, do you like it? She said yes, that she loves it. I said, that's it. That's all that matters. The cost or where you got it or the name does not matter. As long as it smells nice and that's what you want, that's all that matters. So I think grateful and, you know, be contented with what you have.
But there's a part that BC touched that I think is really important. That's sibling. It always happens where when siblings are together, parents are not unable to manage those relationships, having favorites or preferring one to where one seems to be more favored than the other. Or one is able to get, wants to get something, you know, like if you send the last born, that one will get everything. And then that one always has that entitlement that, listen, I own it, I'm the one that everybody loves, mommy loves me, daddy loves me, and you get everything. And it now grows into you, and you feel that everybody should be paying homage to you, that you're the person, everybody should, all the oldest, feeling that I am the one in charge here, daddy doesn't take any decision without running it by me, so whatever happens, I'm the box starts at my table. So there are different ways parents do these things that affect siblings' relationship. Growing up, have you guys experienced that?
Well, the way you have described it, I don't see how that, you know, works with entitlement, but because it's not my personal experience. So, but I have seen siblings become entitled because they become lazy, because it's become easier to just rely on the person who always has that, you know, thing to give you. So I don't really need to lift up a finger. You know, there are some people, they have been okay, you know, they have their jobs. Maybe something happens, life, you know, does something to them, and someone steps in. And all of a sudden, they now realize, okay. Sometimes also I realize people do it subconsciously. You've just become so used to it, you know, that when you need something, someone hands you, you know, a fish. You're hungry, they hand you a fish. And that's why I like that saying where it says, you know, teach you to be a fisherman instead of handing you a fish. You know, yes, you need to understand that for those who may have siblings that have much more than that, much more than them, you need to understand that you're in a period of your life, yes, that maybe things are difficult, but do not think that what is being given to you is something that you are entitled to, that you must have for the rest of your life. That person is helping, and that person also has the right to decide, you know what, I'm done, I can't give it to you anymore. And because if you have that consciousness that that is likely to happen, you'll be working on your own to figure out yourself. And the second thing is contentment. Yeah. The fact that I do not have as much as a sibling, and you're thinking, this is their lifestyle, this is all that they have. You know, you have your own decent means. Understand that you have two different lives. That is their family, and this is who you are, and this is what you can afford. And focus on yourself, because that's where I've also seen where you just want all the things that your other sibling has, because that person is your sibling. You can't. You need to realize, you know, as they say, they give birth to us one by one. And your life is one by one as well. Be content and don't be lazy. And remember that in a don't rely on short-term help for long-term, lifestyle.
Final words on this?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Final words on this.
Okay, so another thing is parents should try and discover their children's talent from time. Not everybody that goes to school will make it in life. There are some people that, maybe handwork or something, you discover it early, is good to harness it at that particular point in time so that the child can, in future, when the child becomes on his own, he'll be able to take care of himself instead of being entitled and depending on all the others. Because I've seen a family that kind of a thing happened to, where the siblings were, doing very well. Those ones do well in school. But the guy knows how to fix things. He's an electrician. He knows how to do things and all. But the mother said, no way, that he has to go to school. He struggled all through school. And he finished the school that she wanted him to go. Meanwhile, he didn't learn all the electrical stuff that he was supposed to have gone to learn. And now he now depends on the siblings and all, and because of that he's entitled. And he's always like, this person has money now, this person should send something to me. He has a family as well.
The parents have a really big role in this whole.
Yes.
Let me come to you as you wrap up.
Yeah, so we just need to be truthful to ourselves. And, this favoritism that we don't like to talk about has caused more harm than good, especially when you're raising children. I don't think any parent should single out one child and say, this is my favorite. No matter how you feel inside, hide it. Do not show it. Make sure that everything you give in your capacity comes out as equal. Every punishment you met for a particular offense comes out as the same for everybody. Life will always put them in their different positions. I always believe that we may be classmates, we may be siblings, but we are not grace mates. My destiny is different from your destiny. If every child understands that my path in life is different from my sister's path or my brother's path, and they face their own path, and they understand with gratitude what they are supposed to do, we will not have cases of entitlement. Now, when you give somebody one thing one time, second time they come, you give. Third time, it starts bringing that entitlement that I deserve this. And when you stop giving, it becomes a problem. So what I do before any request comes to me, from the beginning, I already know if I'm saying yes or no. We also need to find a way to be a bit more assertive with our children, with our siblings, with our parents. Sometimes they make some requests that are somehow ridiculous to me. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this. And there's a reason that I say I'm not going to do this. And I stick to it. So that when you're coming to me next time, you're coming, you know that I can either take a yes or a no. And that sort of helps them to limit their entitlement.
Okay, so I think I'll wrap up on this. But for me, also raising children, one of the things I've done is that, my kids, when you give them something, I always try. So what happens that there was a time where I think somebody got them chocolates, right? So I gave it to them. And then another person got a huge bag of chocolates. Separate. They finished the one that I gave to them, and then they wanted this new one. And I said, no. I said, these ones, we're distributing it out to the neighbors. Yeah. You're not getting it. And my little one, of course, he always has a way with me. He will be crying. This is our own. Uncle bought it for us. I said, yes, it's for you, but we're sharing it. You're not going to keep it. So, and they'll be, and I didn't share it immediately. I left it in the fridge for like 4 days. They are seeing it every day. They'll be coming to me, begging me, have I changed? I said, I've not changed my mind. We have agreed that we're distributing. So they keep seeing it.
That's it was learned.
It was learned.
Yeah.
So as parents, let's find little ways of start helping our children, because we all make mistakes. But let's try and find a way to make sure that in other areas, as you said earlier, you might not as a well-off family, but you might want to buy business class because that's what you are used to. You've been driving business class all your life. But
and you may also not be used to it for the benefit of teaching them a lesson. They will grow and leave. You can do your business class later. For the benefit of teaching, you can do economics.
You can't tell Donald Trump's students to be the
their 20-something-year-old daughter owns a private jet. Do you understand?
So that's her own money.
Yes, but that's a reality. She learned that. She learned not to be entitled. Also, I'm sure from deliberate, intentional parenting.
True. Okay, I think that's all we can take. We're going to still talking about children, but this time around, we're going to be focusing on boys and sexual abuse for boys. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. On this segment, we will be discussing the rising prevalence of sexual abuse in boys. Research shows that 1 in 10 children will be the victim of sexual abuse before their 18th birthday. Joining us on the show is a consultant family physician and a leading child advocate, Dr. Nimi Stephanie Ikiri. Welcome to the show, Dr. Nimi. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Now, this issue of sexual abuse in boys, I know we talk quite a bit about girls. We always forget that boys are also victims. Many men can tell you for free that their first sexual experience was probably some of them at the abuse of aunties, house helps, or somebody that just older than them. A lot of men will tell you that the experience was horrible, and we never paid attention to it and how they evolved to be so adults in different ways. But I'd like you to help us understand this issue of sexual abuse in boys. How do we miss it?
Thank you for that question. We live in a male-dominated society. We also live in a stigma-prone society. We live in a society where vulnerability is equal to weakness. So if someone shows their vulnerable side, especially for boys, they are termed weaklings. They are now emasculated. In our parlance, they are called woman rapper. Yes. Why are you crying? In fact, I've seen, I was walking down, I was going to pick my son, and I saw a parent, a man, tell the son, why are you crying like a girl? Why are you crying like a girl? And the poor boy was crying, and I said, sir, you don't say that to your child. I said, leave me, you shouldn't. And this shocked you. How about one day I was giving a lecture to some parents, and they said, I would not have my son being bullied and coming home to cry. So he will bottle it up, and one day he will explode, and there will be avenues where he will explode. So I think that we haven't given our boy child or our boys the avenue to speak up. We stigmatize, we look down on them because they are boys, and we think that they don't have to express negative emotions. It has to be happy, happy, happy all the time. So I think that is why this is downplayed. And again, you realize that I've had a patient tell me, an elitist patient tell me that he would rather have his child, he wouldn't want any of his children abused, but he'd rather have his male child abused than have his daughter abused. I'm like, why? He said, because it's a man's world. A man is the conqueror. A man is it's not a bad thing. Doctor, I didn't say I want my children to be abused. But if my boy, if I had to choose between my boy, and that was absurd. So we live in this society where it feels like if they are abused, they can't cope with it, but they can't really cope with it. They are not coping with it.
And what would you say, because of our mindset where we don't look at, where we have put boys in this particular space,
pedestal.
What would you say has now become the repercussions of that behavior on the mindset?
Thank you again. I was on a radio show, and a man called me, and he said that when his parents were very rich, at 10, his nanny was abusing him, and it went on for a long time. Nobody knew. Of course, nobody would know. He's a boy child. And at 12, his older cousin was taking him to the brothel. And
at 12?
Yes, and at first, it was normal. He would watch or take alcohol. And afterwards, he started taking the prostitutes, the whores. And this continued until, I think until he was 18 or 19, and then the cousin left. This man is in his 30s. He's hooked on pornography. He can't do without going to the brothel. He's lost his marriage. He can't save. He's a drug addict. He has PTSD. He has depression. So, this is a case study. He evades therapy. He just can't. 1 minute he's telling you he's coming. He doesn't. His life is a wreck because of these things that happened to him in childhood. So our boys are not exempt from these issues. And you know what? They turn out to be abusers. So the cycle continues. And so when we say we are training the girls, we're teaching them, and we haven't talked to the boys that are 90% perpetrators, we find out that it's an exercise in futility.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
Yes, there's a cycle. It's counterproductive. Our efforts will be counterproductive. So I think that we should have an inclusive work, an inclusive environment where we are training the boys. And even with what you're talking about, entitlement, most of our children are entitled. He's my first son. He's my only son. He's my this. I waited. you know, because society just puts that narrative. We can change the
Trophy child.
narrative.
Yeah.
Yes.
Child.
So, does that mean that many of the issues we have in society in regards to romantic relationships, sexual relationships where men are seen as predators come from most of these abuses? Because I've had conversation with a lot of men when we go on set to shoot something and everybody's discussing, and when was your first time, when was your first time? And for the men, like for us, we can remember the first kiss, we can remember the first time a boy sent us letter, that's for people that were not abused. But for many of the men, those are not the experiences they share. They share one auntie was coming to the house, one cousin was there, one house help was the one that, you know, lured me into this. And with those sort of conversations, I also believe that either their fathers or the men, the elderly men in society now are not paying attention to that, or they are not willing to put their neck into helping these men. Many young men I see today still do not have models of how these things should be, models where they can share their experiences, where they can, we don't have male conferences where they are sitting down to say, okay, this and this is what we experience. We want to help you people to speak out when something like this happens. How do we get the men to have these conversations with boys? Because I know boys do not listen to women like that. They don't listen. Even we, our mothers of boys, when we talk to them and when their father talks to them, there's usually a very big difference. So how do we have this conversation in such a way that men see this as a problem? Because I don't think they see it as a problem. Now,
No,
we
they
see they
don't.
fight for girls, they fight for
They
boys.
they don't. And you see, they think that because you're a man, you're immune to pain. Deep down, they know that that they feel pain, but they feel that there's just this unspoken rule that nobody should see a man break down. You know, nobody should, if a man breaks down, then he's no longer in charge. I think we should demystify that. We should break those stereotypes. We should talk about these things and let them know. Now I've told you about a man that is hooked on a lot of vices because of his childhood or the trauma, and you know that traumas don't go away.
It doesn't.
You pack them, use foundation, use your suit. One trigger would exacerbate it, and when it comes, it's overwhelming. So we have to start having these conversations, and even in church. Who is the weaker vessel? Let's take all these things aside. Weaker vessel.
It's in the Bible now.
It is, but in another context.
Yes, give the...
Women work. Women earn a living.
I know we're weaker vessel.
We're no longer, we're equal.
So the Bible is incorrect.
No, it's not.
But the
in
weaker
another
vessel in the
It's
Bible
not
was
even about-
a physical makeup
Yes,
of a woman
exactly.
different from a man. That was it. I don't know why they
It
now
does not
changed
mean
it to
mentally
different-
or-
Some now are women not even more physically. Some women are physically stronger. Because even at home, some women are beating men and they're not
Yeah, if-
speaking
Dr.
up.
Nimi, let me let Ramatu come.
Okay, so what are the signs we should look out for? And what are the, how do we make them talk if they are if maybe something like that happens to them?
Yeah.
How do you get them to talk?
Good. So for the sign, sometimes you may not, especially if the child is a taciturn one, it's quiet. But as parents, we have to really be intentional. We have to know our children. If someone asks you, how's your child, you should know that this child was like this and now it's changing. So the child could be quiet, extraordinarily quiet, wants to be alone, retrogression in academics because they're not concentrating. And then when the abuser comes, they are very uncomfortable. They want to say something, but because the abuser is usually a person in authority, a person that is above them, and of course would have threatened them, they want to say something, but they just would not say anything. So you see them very uncomfortable with the abuser around. And it's also important that we trust our gut feelings, our motherly instinct, our parenting instinct. It could be from the father. I don't like to say motherly all the time because it's a joint thing. It's a collaboration. It's teamwork. Parental instincts. Yes, so it's not just the motherly instinct.
Yeah.
If you have this feeling that all is not well about someone, please do not dismiss it.
Do you know what I also see why maybe the older adult men may not really think it's a big deal? Because some of the men that I have spoken to, when they talk about their experiences, they don't describe it as a painful experience.
They're happy.
Concord.
Yes.
They're like, when I was 9, if you see what I did when I was 10, you know? And, you know, I've had a conversation where I'm like, how did you feel? We're like, I was excited. What do you mean? among my
Until
peers.
you see their dark sides.
Well,
you see this,
among-
this thing that happened with the Equatorial Guinea.
Nah.
Do you know the trauma? Do you
I
know what
said
he
it
faced?
First, yeah.
Do you know?
So for them, yeah. So
Yeah,
they don't,
you know,
you see people all prim and proper.
yeah, so I was going somewhere, which is, if they don't see it as a painful experience, why then would they? In fact, maybe in their minds, they're thinking, I hope my
boy
little son gets
He's already getting it.
quick.
What
quick
she's saying
enough.
is that we don't know their painful side. That there's a dark side of that. What we see
come out with that
is the
facade.
fact that they've masked it as, oh,
Yes.
it was a fantastic conqueror and whatever. But really, there's a dark side.
It damages them.
No, I agree with that. I'm just talking
And it's
to the fact where
individualized too.
conversation is not happening.
Yes.
So maybe now we need to talk to the adults saying what you are describing as a
A good time.
exciting experience. This may be why you're
As
like this
repercussion.
in this area,
And
that
in their
is what you
sober
should
moments, they
prevent
feel-
your
they-
child from going through. As
Yes,
well.
and in their sober moments, they feel it. They tell you that they feel like all is not well. They feel like their lives are not together. You know, we all have our times of, you know, being sober, of being reflective, of introspection, you know, retrospection as well. So, and some of them may not, I mean, a lot of people, some people will not have the same effect. It may not take the same toll as it would with some people. Some of them, okay, sorry.
Dr. Neil, sorry, there's a bit of a conflict here because, you know, in this new world where there are girly men or there are men that are now very feminist and they're very
Feminine men.
feminine. I'm trying to find a nicer word.
Effeminate men.
Effeminate men.
Girly men.
You know, girly men, and you know, and some are declaring that they are not men, that they are now women. A lot of parents are scared of their child having an inkling of that behavior. So they're trying to make you a man's man. Like, you know, I've seen some fathers. I don't want it, maybe because a little boy maybe wears my wig or wears somebody's wig. Why are you wearing your mother's wig? What nonsense is that? You can't even-
Deliverance immediately.
Yeah.
Go to church.
So because we are trying to get to that point of let a boy be a child. Express them, let them cry, let them be, you know. But our men are like, hell no, that's not gonna happen in my house. You're not wearing your mother's shoes. You're not wearing, you know. I mean, when the kids they did it, that wasn't a big deal. So how do we marry these two worlds? There's a new world out there, but the men are trying to raise men, not girly men. So how do we find that middle ground?
Okay. So, emotions don't define your masculinity
Or femininity.
or femininity or who you are. I mean, we're human beings first with our emotions. We laugh, we cry. So it doesn't determine anything. You don't box people up because you think that they'll be said to be weaklings if they open up. Again, I know there's a thin line because you don't want them to be effeminate. You don't want them to act like women. But that's where, like we said, intentional parenting comes in. You'll be watchful. You're watching. It doesn't just happen. These children go to the internet, have friends that change their mindset. So if it's not because you didn't let them wear their shoes. Children will be children. If they wear shoes, they will outgrow it. They will outgrow that phase. Yeah. So let them be children. Let them play. But let's set boundaries and be very much into them. Like, be in their lives. Be their friends. Be, sometimes, I like to say intrusive, but it gets to a stage where they'll tell you, Mom, please, hold it. But, you know, when that formative years, when you're in their lives, you guide them. So you're guiding them, but you're not shutting them up. Because if you keep, oh, I don't want you to be, one day they'll get curious. Why is my dad not wanting me to, you know, express myself? And yes, and if you see a boy that is tilting towards that, you would know.
You will know, yeah.
It's
not hidden.
Yes.
It's not hidden.
So
It's just that we
that's
like
where
to
you come in.
deny.
We like to deny.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they say they've come out of their closet.
Yeah.
They were already, it was already there. So it's for us to be intentional, be their friend, be in their lives, dispel any misconception, talk to them, know their friends, and just be there for them.
Okay, so at what age? Sorry. So at what age do you think is the appropriate time to start telling them about their, you know, body parts? Because there was this video that was circulating recently online that a 13-year-old boy that raped one girl, just 13, and immediately I saw that video. I've not had any conversation with my son because he's only 10 as of the time when I saw the video. I had to go and sit down and start talking to him about, you know, his body parts and how to use it. And if a girl says no, you know is no and all of that. So what is the right age? Because he's 10 and I'm like, if a 13-year-old boy can do this, because 10 and 13, the difference is not really, yes. So we have to, I
Yeah,
don't
we
know,
have to start very early. As soon as they're aware of their environment, as soon as you start seeing people around your house.
That means at 5 or 6.
Even earlier, I wrote books that are in use in schools and it was deliberate because I wanted age-appropriate books. And you use the languages that they understand. Of course, you're not going to use incomprehensible words for children that are just, or high-falutin words for children that are very little. So you're my body parts, and call it by their name. Oh, this is your penis, this is your, but, make it as simple as possible. And then as they progress, as they evolve, you now come to terms with what it is. Yeah. This is it, this is it, this is it. But you have to start early. No one touches you inappropriately. No one, I'll give you a story. I mean, I started early to teach my children, very early. I have 3 adolescents, and I thought they were sheltered. So, and...
Isn't it the job of the dad?
My husband, I made sure I include. I don't do things unilaterally. We taught them. We did together. So I was in the kitchen, and one new nanny I got was helping out. And in a split second, this lady said, wrote a letter to my son, and that she wanted to be with him. And my son was literally like, he told his brother he was 12. And she said, do you know how old I am? How dare you? And she said, I thought you were an adult. How would you think he's an adult? So, of course, they told me. They said, Mom, come right now. Mom, come. I knew there was something wrong. So they went to my, Mom, this girl has to go. If I hadn't taught them, she would have manipulated, she would have coerced, and maybe in a split, you will never know. So we have to have conversations with our children, our boy child, girl child, because it happens. And when it happens, you may never know. And trust me, if you hear it later, you will feel so guilty.
Yes.
Guilty. And these are times where we have to work inevitably so. So you have to prepare them with tools.
So do you get men come for therapy? Because in my years of coaching, we have more female clients come. They will come and say their husband has this problem. But husband now it becomes a problem. Husband doesn't want to come. And I wonder why it seems like they always push the women forward. Go sort out your issues. Go sort out our family issues. Don't bring me into it. I'm a man. I can handle it. How do we help them to be more vulnerable in sharing some of these experiences and what they've gone through and the adverse impact it has made on their lives, right? Because I know yesterday when we had a conversation, many people tackled me. We talked about the Equatorial Guinea man, and they said, why is BC saying he's psychologically sick? Why is BC saying no, he's just having fun and all of that? And I said, if you understand the psychology, exactly, if you understand the psychology of the human mind, it is not normal for somebody to go 1, 2, 3 to 400. Yes, there's something wrong there. But men, but men don't see this as a problem. They see it as conquering. So how do you have a lot of men come, and how do we encourage them to come out and speak about some of these things?
Men typically don't go to the hospitals. They hide, they shy away from their problems. So you see a woman having infertility, and of course, you know that it may not even be her fault, but she's the one every day coming. So in the hospitals, you see more of women, children, and maybe elderly men. A lot of men, young men don't come. They evade therapy, they evade until it's so bad, So we need to have open conversations in churches, in mosques, places of worship, to demystify these things that they've held on to for so long, to make them learn and keep relearning that when they need help, and everything shouldn't be spiritualized. We live in an environment where, this man is for me.
That was not yesterday. Let's go back. Rewind, because that is where I want us to land this systematic.
Even with promiscuity, it's a curse. We have to deliver
spiritual wife. They just
him. We make excuses.
See, that's my worry, because when problems happen, people say, can you see the patterns? His father was this, his mother, and we don't try to face the issues here in Africa, and that's a problem for me. So how do you deal with people who resort to spiritual approaches to solve this kind of medical or scientific problems?
It's a big problem, because it's very difficult to change the mind of someone that's already fixated. But you keep talking, just like she said yesterday, that a lot of people just hide under the shadow of, oh, spirituality, and they do more harm. So I think we just need to keep talking, and we need to keep giving them reasons why they need to come for help, whether medically, whether psychologically or otherwise.
I want to ask you this question. It's a tricky question because of the, how we take it here in our country. The effeminate men we spoke about. Do you think sexual abuse is a
Factor.
factor in how these boys turn out? Being effeminate and sometimes even being confused as to what gender they are. Is it parenting or is it sexual abuse?
To a large extent, sexual abuse, and then maybe parenting, of course, peer pressure influence, but to a large extent. So I told you about the man that was abused in the brothel. Now he cannot, he's addicted to brothels, he's addicted to whores, So most times it's, they relieve their trauma,
Through that expression.
Through that expression.
Yes,
That's how.
But it's different because many men will say, I'd rather my child be a man whore, sorry to use the word, than to be this effeminate man.
Well, it depends on the
In this part
environment.
of the world.
Yes,
It
they will
depends.
tell you that is so. And so many people say it is because they were abused.
Most times.
But
and
then we also
for
have
some
people who
others, peer pressure. I mean,
say it's
internet,
natural.
they have
Some
friends
people
that
are
say
born
it's
this
natural.
way.
You don't believe anybody's born that way?
I don't want to go there, but I don't
Okay.
believe that.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't believe that. I believe that because I know a lot of people would argue,
Yes.
but I believe that
It's a very sensitive
Yes.
fact. Elections in America is happening just now. So let us not compound the matter. Let's take a few comments on social media because we're wrapping up very soon. But I think, in a nutshell, I think Ramatu took us there, the signs to observe as parents. When your child is being molested or abused, what are these things? Yes, you said one. You said he withdraws. What else? What other signs should we look out for?
anxious. He's always sad. Sometimes he cries unprovoked. He just keeps crying. He's to himself. He doesn't come out to play, and he's suspicious of people. And then over time, you see him now doing things that are sexual. He could just come and kiss. I mean, that's what he knows. And you see, children are innocent. They just, what you give is what you see, is
receive,
what
yeah.
they express. So you see a child without inhibitions, doing things in a sexual way. And you begin to wonder, one uncle or auntie is doing that to them. So we have to, and again, they retrogress.
Or a peer, we need to.
Yes, Pierre. Yes, it happens a lot. Like,
So they need to put camera all over your house.
and equip them with the tools, to be assertive. Once you've done that,
To know who they are.
To know who they are, and that nobody can intimidate them. Because a lot of times they come and, they bring them down. Then there's low self-esteem. Most children that give in have low self-esteem because these people come, tell them nice words.
Are you a baby?
Are you a baby? Look at, don't you know you're...
Unfortunately, we have to wrap up on
Yeah,
this. But
baby,
thank you,
baby in
Dr.
Jesus'
Nini.
name.
Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Nini, for coming. It's a pleasure having you. But I really, really
Thank you.
appreciate your knowledge here, and we hope that parents can see this as an opportunity to begin to have this conversation with boys. We do quite a bit with girls, but let's start paying attention to our boy children. That's all we can take on today's show. Hope you had a great time. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.